This is the Canon RF 50mm f1.8 lens, and I'm going to talk about my experience with this lens over the past month. So let's get into it. Before we begin, there are three parts to this video: the build quality, the image performance, and the focusing system. So feel free to jump around in the chapters below. Let's start off with build quality. For the build of this lens, we're looking at a plastic enclosure with a metal lens mount. This is fine because at this price point, I don't really expect a full metal lens. That comes around the $400 and up range. So for $200, that's fine to be plastic. I do really appreciate that the lens mount is metal, as that is the most fragile part of the lens as far as the cylinder itself goes. So the build quality is fine. Now, beware that the focusing system does come out of the lens, so just something to note. Let's move on to image quality, and this is where things get interesting. Because this is a prime lens, it doesn't have a lot of the drawbacks that zooms have. So it doesn't have as much chromatic aberration, and it is a lot sharper. But it doesn't change its focal range, so this can be a limiting factor. 50mm is a great range though, because it's not too wide to be considered a wide, and it's not too zoomed in to be considered a zoom. It's kind of like in a great middle range. But remember, this is 50mm on a full frame camera. So if you have an APS-C size sensor, it could be 1.6 times or 1.5 times. So make sure to consider that. 50mm is awesome on a full frame, but kinda is too much on a APS-C size. So beware of that. So it's a great sharp lens for the price. Let's move on to focusing, and this is where it kinda turns for the worse. Because this is a cheaper lens, it doesn't have the ultrasonic motors that the nicer lenses do, and this means that it uses a stepper motor. And this is fine, but it is not the fastest focusing system, and I find myself having a lot of issues with it. It is a drive-by-wire in a way, so you can't actually change the zoom mechanism, it's just done by motors. And this can seem a little disconnected and imprecise compared to a fully manual system like this. This lens has a mechanical focusing system, but it also has autofocus, and I love that. But this lens is really only autofocus. And even if you want to do mechanical, you can't really because, well, you're just telling the motors to move. So that's not great. There's also a lot of focus breathing with this lens, like a lot. So that's something to consider as well. And as I said earlier, the focusing system comes out of this lens, and that's something to be aware of because dust and debris can get inside of that. So just be careful. But overall, for the price point, this is a great lens. It does have some issues with vignetting, but it is sharp and a great form factor. But that's what you get for this price point. Canon does have a 50mm f1.2 lens that gets rid of most of these issues, but it's like $2,000, so you can't really beat the price point. If you're just getting into photography or even a professional, this is a great lens to have because of its price and form factor. Well, that's where we're gonna end it for today. If you have any further questions about this lens or anything else, leave it in the comment section below and I will answer your question. If you want to purchase anything that we use on the channel or become a Patreon supporter, check that out in the links below. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out any more content like this. Well, that's it, and I'll see you in the next one.